All right, so it's been a little bit. I hate that I've started so many videos with this same exact phrase, but here we are again. It's been a month since my last video, I think like 35, 36 days to be exact. The last video was an Acolyte reaction, so you guys were probably expecting another Acolyte reaction for my next video. I promise you, this is not a reaction. But before we dive into the show itself and talking about it, I want to talk about where I've been. The last 3 weeks I was on vacation, so obviously no YouTube videos there. But before that, videos have been very, very sporadic. There's been no real organization to the channel, especially since the beginning of this year, which I really didn't intend on. I was hoping 2024 would be the year where I kind of stepped it up on YouTube, did a little bit more, but unfortunately that is not how things have been able to go for me. Life has gotten in the way, but not in a bad way. I mean, I'm very, very busy with school. That's good. Obviously a pain in my ass sometimes, but I also work full time. I'm a freelance video editor. So whenever I go from school to doing work for 8 hours, the last thing I want to do sometimes is edit a YouTube video because I just spent 8 hours doing that exact thing. Like, I have so many backlogged videos right now. I finished Legend of Korra season 1 like 2 months ago, like before I posted my last reaction video to that show. I'm like 5 or 6 episodes ahead in Rick and Morty from what you guys have seen. A couple of movie reactions that I still have not posted. The Last Airbender in particular, I think I filmed that like 7 months ago now. Ooh. And that one, I think I still have the long hair. I still have the old background panels. But the bottom line is it's been super hectic. There's been no real organization to the channel. Like I said, I just got back from a long vacation and I didn't know I missed YouTube this much. I got back and I was like, man, I really want to get back to posting videos. But like I said, life has just been so hectic. Right now, classes for school are a little less demanding of my time, and work is also a little less demanding of my time right now. So I'm hoping in this next week I can get back to a regular schedule. You know, I'm filming a couple of videos in the next couple of hours just to get out. Like, I'm doing this one, I'm doing a Deadpool and Wolverine review, which I saw on vacation with my friends. A lot of fun with that. But pertaining to the topic of this video, a lot of people were asking me, hey, where are your Acolyte reactions? I had somebody on Twitter just ask me a couple hours ago, hey, what happened to your Acolyte stuff? Are you going to react to the finale, or are you going to react to episode 5? I did film reaction videos for episodes 5 and 6. I gave up, guys. That's the best. This is going to be pretty unfiltered. I'm not going to be cutting a lot of my thoughts from this. There's obviously going to be jump cuts so that I can gather my thoughts and, you know, articulate sentences and give you a good sense of what I'm feeling. But at the same time, this is going to be pretty unfiltered whenever it comes to my thoughts and not holding back my feelings on what's going on with current Star Wars and especially this show. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware that Star Wars is not in the greatest place right now. We haven't had a movie since 2019. It's taken this many years to get a movie in development. I think The Mandalorian and Grogu is shooting right now, but we haven't gotten hard proof that it is. We've just kind of heard that it is. We haven't seen set photos, anything like that. They haven't announced it, which I think is kind of weird, especially whenever they haven't had a movie in so long. You would think they would want to hype up the production and get people excited and let people know what's coming, but Lucasfilm is kind of a lost entity right now. But we haven't had a movie in 5 years, so things have mainly been chugging forward on Disney Plus with Star Wars. Star Wars is a streaming exclusive right now, which I think desperately needs to change, and it is going to change, but it has not been working for a lot of people, including myself. Obviously, we kicked things off really high with The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian seasons 1 and season 2, fantastic. Season 3, big step down in quality. I don't hate it as much as most people do, but there's definitely a lot more flaws with that season than there are with the first 2 seasons and a lot of the other stuff that we've gotten, like Andor. Absolutely love Andor. Book of Boba Fett is another show that I don't hate as much as most people, but it's definitely not great. I would hesitate to even call it not good. See, like, there's episodes in that show that I have a lot of fun with. I really like the Tusken stuff. There's moments towards the finale and the last episode that I like. But overall, I think that show did a lot of damage to the narrative structure that we were kind of going with The Mandalorian. I'm going to try to stay away from plot points with those shows because I'm going to get dragged into a whole nother conversation. Book of Boba Fett, Mando Season 3, Ahsoka, I was pretty disappointed in upon rewatch. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think, is the first Star Wars project that I hate. Like, there's are certain things that I don't like. I don't like the sequels, but I don't hate them. I hate Obi-Wan Kenobi because I was so excited for that show. And even you guys can go back and watch my reactions. I was so blinded by the nostalgia bait, once again, the jangling keys, that I seemingly loved the show upon my first watch. And then I rewatched it through, a couple weeks after it came out. I was seeing some other people's reviews and I was like, okay, you know what? They're actually bringing up some pretty good points. I should probably go back and rewatch this and try to rethink the whole thing. Obviously, I'm not going to take anybody's opinions and try to form them into my own, but at the same time, I want to watch it without the rose-tinted goggles, should I say. And I did that, and I don't think I've ever been so disappointed in a Star Wars project. Like, man, that show just missed the mark on so many levels. But overall, the live-action stuff on Disney Plus has been pretty disappointing overall. So, going into this show, I was like, man, what's going to happen? I'm almost out of optimism. Before the show started, I was right on the teetering point. I was like, I don't want to be seen as one of those cynical fans that is just like, yeah, it's bad no matter what. I haven't seen it yet, but it's bad. I don't want to be like those people. And I honestly am starting to understand where a lot of those people are coming from, because my optimism after this show is completely gone for Disney Star Wars. I really wish it wasn't the case. I love Star Wars with everything in me, but what has been allowed to happen to this brand, what they've done with these legacy characters, these stories, the lore, it's just, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I made a post about this, a week ago, talking about how I have lost my optimism for Star Wars. And I had somebody tell me that I was the problem. I don't see how I'm the problem if I'm losing my optimism. I can only keep optimism for so long. Look at it this way. If I'm going to a restaurant, right, and they keep serving me middling to bad food, are you going to keep your optimism and keep on going and keep ordering all this food expecting it to be good? No. The logical answer is no. I'm not going to go and spend my hard-earned money on something that I know is not going to be good based upon the track record that has followed. And it's the same thing with Star Wars and a lot of these big IPs. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself by saying this, but I'm not going to stop watching the Star Wars stuff. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, if you don't like it, why are you going to watch it? Because then you're just going to complain, and you're not going to like it. But this is coming from the same people who are telling us that we can't criticize it unless we've watched it. So it's just like, make up your mind. Can I watch it and criticize it? Or do you not want me to watch it because you think I'm going to criticize it either way? I'm not going to stop consuming Star Wars content. That's just stupid. I love Star Wars. I want to love it. But at the same time, if it's bad, I'm going to call it bad. I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore, say, oh, I had some fun with it, it had some cool moments. I'm sorry, but all of that doesn't make something good or great. It has to have some substance, and this show had none of that. I think that the Acolyte has probably some of the weakest characters in Star Wars ever. Like, I don't care about any of them. Any of them. And me calling this show out for having weak characters is insane, because the sequels have some pretty weak characters, but at least an attempt was made to try to humanize these characters. These characters in this show don't feel real. They do not feel real. They feel like exactly what they are. People on a page. And I'm going to be jumping around from point to point. I mean, I'm not going to have a clear, cohesive structure to this video, but this whole show looks like a fan film. I mean, what happened to the $180 million that they spend on this show? House of the Dragon roughly had the same budget, and it looks light years better than this. I think this is a problem with most of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. Aside from Andor had a $250 million budget, so it had zero reason to look bad. But neither did this. Because this thing is roughly 12 Godzilla minus ones. And that thing won the Oscar for best visual effects on a $15 million budget. What are we doing? And the budget really plays into just how poor this show feels. The sets don't feel real. I don't feel like I'm in a galaxy far, far away. It's hard to feel like you're in a galaxy far, far away when I can tell everything's a set and all of the costumes look like cosplayers that I'd see at Star Wars Celebration. The writing in this show is some of the worst that we've seen from Disney Star Wars, and that's saying a lot. It's this show's biggest problem, and it somehow gets worse and worse every single episode, which is just, gotta give it up to them for that. Holy balls. Like, for example, the character motivations in this show and the flip-flopping and just the characters in general make no sense. Like, May switches sides at the drop of a dime with zero explanation of where she's coming from. She goes from bad to good, back to bad, and then to good again because it's now Osha's turn to be bad. And then she kills Sol for killing her mom, which she doesn't let him explain, because if he did, then it would be considered benign sexism, according to Leslie Headland, who thinks that him explaining himself and looking out for his daughter in this kind of father-daughter relationship is somehow sexist and is stepping on the toes of a woman. And you would think the way that their relationship was at least perceived, I can't even say written because it's not really well written out, it's perceived as a father-daughter relationship. So you would think that she would let Sol explain, but no, she just kills him without any context whatsoever. And the motives change not because it makes sense for the character, but because that's what the writers think that they need to do in order to move the story forward. Like the little beaver dude, Basil, like why do his motivations and alliances change? He goes from helping the Jedi track May down to helping her escape Sol's pursuit whenever he's chasing her in the finale, without any explanation given as to why he's now helping her. And the Jedi are supposed to be seen as the bad guys in this show, but no one can convince me that Sol did anything wrong. Sure, his obsession with Osha with no explanation as to why he feels the connection is weird, but I attribute a lot of that to just the terrible writing with this show. But he kills the mom, Anastasia. He kills the witch that starts to form into this big black demon smoke cloud, whose actions are obviously affecting May, who he thinks is Osha, and she begins to turn into this smoke monster while she knows the Jedi are on edge and have their weapons drawn. Like Torben literally has his lightsaber pulled out, but I'm supposed to feel like this is all Sol's fault and he made a massive mistake by doing this? No, not at all. This is all on her. Why didn't she say that she was gonna let Osha go before she did all this and give a little bit of an explanation instead of causing this whole thing? It's all her fault. It's all her fault, but we're meant to believe as the audience, they want us to think that the Jedi are bad and it's all Sol's fault, but that doesn't make any sense. And this single plot point is what drives the entire show. This is the answer that we're waiting for throughout the entire series. And it just, the show depends on this plot point to get you on the side of Osha and Sol after they kill Sol, or after Osha chokes Sol. But all this does is make me have more questions and question the decision making and storytelling, and like the type of show it's trying to be changes from episode to episode. Like in the beginning, from the trailers, we thought this was going to be a murder mystery thing. We thought it was going to be centered around the Sith, but we start off with a murder mystery, and then we go over to the Jedi, and then it's a Sith story for a little bit. But before we get to the Sith story, it's all about these two sisters and their lesbian coven of space witches. And then we go through some of these same plot points over and over again, at least twice. And then we get to the finale, where nothing really makes sense. All the questions that are answered are very unfulfilling. The trail of breadcrumbs that this show has been leading to ultimately just leads to more questions. So we're just gonna dangle some keys in front of everybody. There's Plagueis, there's Yoda, and boom, show over. Yeah, that's it. That's basically it. So this is now the second thing added to the list of Star Wars things that I hate. Obi-Wan Kenobi, and now this. And now this leads me into the future of this brand, the future of Star Wars. What's going to happen? Obviously, the next show that we have coming up is Skeleton Crew. I know that I said I was probably going to just keep consuming Star Wars content so I can at least give my reviews without people being like, "Well, you haven't seen it. Well, you can't give an opinion unless you've seen it." Um, I think I'm gonna find alternatives to Disney Plus. I think you know what I'm talking about, especially with the price increases coming up. I definitely want to pay more of my hard-earned money towards this great content that they're putting out. Like, we're hearing from all of these different sources that have been extremely reliable, like Bespin Bulletin and Making Star Wars are both saying that internally Lucasfilm is not happy with Skeleton Crew and they don't think it's good. If Lucasfilm is admitting that a project is not good, but we didn't hear them say any of that about the Acolyte, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mando Season 3, Book of Boba Fett, or the sequels. Um, I think that's a telltale sign that we might be in for some of the worst Star Wars that we've ever seen, which I don't know how that's possible after getting this show. I genuinely don't know. So I really don't know if I'm going to end up watching Skeleton Crew or if I'm going to skip it. I'll probably end up just doing reactions to it, but if it's the same kind of quality, then I'm just going to drop it like I did this show and not do any more reactions and do the same kind of rant video as this. But while we're on the topic of the future of this franchise and the IP, what is going on with Disney right now? Because Disney seems to be course correcting everywhere except Lucasfilm. Pixar seems like it's going to go back on top for a little bit. You know, we're doing a lot of sequels, regardless of how you may feel about those sequels. Inside Out 2 was fantastic. I was, very hesitant about that as a sequel, but it was fantastic. And they're doing Toy Story sequels, talking about an Incredibles 3, Frozen, Zootopia. They're doing all this other stuff. I know some of that isn't Pixar, but it's Disney in general. I feel like with the animated stuff, they're course correcting. With Marvel, it feels like they're course correcting. Rumor is that they cleared house. They cleaned house a couple of months ago, and that they have been over the last year. And they're really trying to fix stuff. Bob Iger has said that they're going to focus on more of the popular characters. They're going to go back to the Avengers. They're going to focus on the characters that they know people want and the characters that they know work. Obviously, there are still some things in the pipeline like Agatha, Ironheart, some of the movies that were greenlit and in production whenever Bob Chapek was fired and Bob Iger came back, even though a lot of that stuff was greenlit before Bob Chapek was even put in. But it's okay. It's okay. We're course correcting now. I don't have a lot of complaints whenever it comes to Marvel 2 years from now. I think it's going to be good. But I say all of that about all those other brands. Where is this same kind of effort being put into Star Wars? Because it feels like they're just doubling down on everything. Past Skeleton Crew, we don't really know what's going on Disney Plus wise. It seems like they're shifting into movie stuff, which they really need to be doing, because I don't know how much longer Star Wars can survive as a streaming exclusive. But with Marvel on its comeuppance again, and Pixar and Disney Animation and just all of these other studios, rising right now, I struggle to see how Star Wars is going to be a success in the future, especially the next Star Wars movie, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Comes out like a week and a half before the next Avengers movie. I don't think that's a good idea. And then on top of that, we're going to do a Rey movie, which I love Daisy Ridley. Think she's a great actress, very charming, seems like she's a very sweet soul. But why are we doing this? No one wants to see this movie. This movie will do the Marvel's numbers for Star Wars. And I just read something today that Kathleen Kennedy is talking about retiring, finally, for the love of God, but she wants to leave on a high note. And I don't see a high note in the future. I don't. I really don't. Like I said, my optimism is pretty much gone, and I can only hold on to optimism for so long. It only makes sense to. I think you're a psychopath if you're going into every single thing. It's a totally different story if you're liking every single thing. If you're liking every single thing and you're going into the next thing thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be great, totally different story. But if you're someone like me who has not liked the last several projects and then goes into the next thing thinking this is going to be fantastic based on this amazing track record of theirs, then you're just wrong. And I think you're stupid. But don't get it twisted. If you're enjoying it, I'm not here to rain on your parade. This is all my opinion. This is a rant video. I'm spilling my thoughts completely unfiltered in this video. I don't know how much I'm going to end up cutting, how much I'm going to actually keep, but I pretty much got everything off my chest. While I have lost my optimism for the brand, you know, I'm going into every new thing thinking, okay, this might be good, but it's probably going to be bad. I'm not quite empathetic yet. I'm getting there. I think if Skeleton Crew is as bad as people are saying it is, and I really can't see it being good at this point, I think I'm going to reach the stage of empathy by the end of this year, because I think the Skeleton Crew is coming out like beginning of December. So if the end of this year wraps up and we really haven't gotten any good Star Wars this year, whenever it comes to live action content, I'm just going to become empathetic. I really am. And it makes me sad to even say that, because I grew up on Star Wars. I grew up on the prequels. I grew up on the original trilogy. My dad loved Star Wars. I grew up with the toys that he gave me that were his whenever he was a kid. I got my own toys. Look at my room. Guys, I love this stuff. So it pains me. It literally destroys me to say that I am no longer interested in Star Wars and that this brand has kind of killed itself in my eyes. I wish that wasn't the case, but here we are. I'm, like I said, I'm not very optimistic that they're going to turn this around. Kathleen Kennedy's talking about leaving finally. I don't really know what that's going to fix at this point. I feel like Marvel, just like Marvel, Lucasfilm has to completely clear house. They got to clean everybody out. They got to get new people in. They got to get people that know what they're doing. Even people like Dave Filoni. My faith in them has been extremely shaken, especially after the Acolyte. He's chief creative officer over at Lucasfilm. He approves everything that is being put out, and he approves the scripts, he approves the lore stuff, and this is where we're at. This is where we're at right now. The former prodigy of Lucasfilm, of George Lucas, is now waning my trust, and it's been shaken. So I'm no longer optimistic. I'm not quite empathetic yet, but that's where I'm currently at with Star Wars. I know I'm probably going to get a ton of hate in the comments. I don't care. I wanted to get this off my chest. This is how I feel. Tell me how you feel. I'm not going to hate you for giving your opinion, so don't give me hate for giving mine. That's just how this works. Respect is mutual, even on the internet. So let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. I know this is probably a very messy video whenever it comes to organization. I have no idea how I'm going to edit it. But let me know your thoughts down below. Regular reactions are going to hopefully be out next week. I'm going to have my Deadpool and Wolverine review, maybe a couple of other videos talking about similar subjects like this out over the next couple of days. But next week we will be back to the regular schedule, hopefully. So hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one.